Via Zoom, yeah, I was thinking the
I
school
would think the
district,
school
I don't
district
know,
too. I
yeah,
know Mount Falls for sure.
yeah. I think
She's
they
at a
would too.
conference.
Okay, okay. Yeah, if you want.
Okay.
Like I said, the camera though will move around to whoever's talking. So they'll see you, but if you want to share, you might have to do it on that. computer.
I'll come in. Whatever is
But I
easiest.
don't know why, usually,
Hey, it works.
muted.
Can you see out there? These all-
I was gonna say, usually you can see up there.
I think if she plugs it in, might be able to.
Because it usually comes up on the TV.
Followed by pound. Otherwise, just press pound to continue. Please enter the meeting password, followed by pound. You are in the meeting now. There are 4 participants in the meeting. This meeting is being recorded. You are muted. You can mute or unmute yourself by pressing *6. You are unmuted.
Hello?
Hello?
Hey, Bill, can you hear us?
I can, sorry, I had
I had
computer
computer
issues, so I had to
issues, so I had to
call
call in
in addition
in
to
addition to
video.
video.
Can you mute your computer?
Just did.
Okay, great. Now you're coming in loud and clear. Thanks, Bill.
Okay, I'll go ahead and step up here and call the joint review board meeting for the Village of Lannon, tax incremental districts number 1 and 2 amendments to order on July 28th, 2022 at 5:32 p.m. Roll call. Have a list of who's on here. I know we had some people that are filling in for others. So Patrick Yates is here from Village of Lannon. don't see Mike Janus on the
He's
call.
out of town.
You have Bill Duckwitz from Waukesha County.
Yes.
You have Caitlin, I'm sorry, Caitlin, I can't see your last.
I'm from Menominee Falls School District.
Who else do we have? Why don't we just sound off with our names here?
This is Jane Kittle from Waukesha County Technical College.
Thank you. Yeah, Bill.
And you have Bill coming in via phone and
Okay.
on screen.
Our citizen member is absent.
Okay.
But I believe we still have a quorum, correct?
You do. Yes, you have between the technical college, the county, yourself, you have a quorum for TID 2, and you definitely have a quorum for TID 1 with the inclusion of Menominee Falls into that. Yes.
All right, item 3 then, consideration and appointment and or reaffirmation of the Joint Review Board's public member. So that would be Mike
Mike
Janus.
Janus.
And I would certainly nominate him to continue in that capacity.
I'd like to ask whether Mr. Janus is a part of the Planning Commission and that board.
He is a member of the Planning Commission, that's correct.
For the village.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Do we have a second for the nomination, or did we have concerns?
I think some of the I'll second, but I think some of the concern is with citizen members. Sometimes if it's not somebody that's on the plan commission because they're already kind of part of the process already, but I'll second.
Mike has been a member of the Joint Review Board now for some time, correct?
Since the formation.
Yeah, so Mike has been a member of the Joint Review Board since the formation of the 2 different tax increment districts. And I think it's fair to say that Mike does not have any interest in either of the 2 tax increment districts. Is that a fair statement?
No, I mean, he lives in one of them, but.
Yeah.
So why?
But no other interest in the development of the 2 different.
No other-
tax increment districts.
No other conflicts. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
I
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Item 4, election and or reaffirmation of chairperson.
It'd be open
I
to
think,
any of the members of the Joint Review Board. I believe this one was first formed, but
Every
Tom,
meeting, we seem to elect a
yeah,
new one. Anybody want to volunteer?
I'd like to nominate the village representative to be that chairperson for this joint review board.
he's thrilled.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
I
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I'll carry on then. Number 5, discuss responsibilities of the Joint Review Board.
I can take that one, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. John Cameron with Ellers. The responsibilities of the Joint Review Board. This is the first meeting and it's organizational in nature. So the couple items to take care of from a business standpoint have been done in terms of the reaffirmation of your public member and the election of your chairperson. We'll get an overview of the project plan next, and then at the end of the meeting, you will set the date for the final Joint Review Board meeting, which will happen after the village board takes up the proposed amendments for TID 1 and 2 in August. The responsibilities for the Joint Review Board is at that second meeting, an up or down vote, yes or no, in terms of whether or not the two project plan amendments meet the statutory requirements for tax incremental financing, mainly that it satisfies what's commonly referred to as the but-for test, that but for the use of tax incremental financing, the development either wouldn't occur in the manner and quality that the village would like to see or in the timeline that the village would like to see.
Okay, we'll move on then to item number 6, which is to review and discuss the project plan for TID number 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can take this item here as well. So I'll walk through the project plan amendment for tax increment district number 1, and then we'll move on to tax increment district number 2. So tax increment district number 1 was formed as a mixed use district. It was amended in February of 2021 to add project costs to the district itself. So this is the second amendment for the district, and the first amendment in terms of adding and subtracting territory to the district's boundary. Part of the reason for subtracting territory is that the village fully anticipates that once the new equalized values come out in August, that the village will be over what's called the 12% test, meaning that the village will no longer be allowed to create any new tax increment districts or amend the boundary of any existing tax increment districts to add territory, because the existing incremental value of the districts is more than 12% of the total TID-in equalized value in the village. So this is the first year that we anticipate that being that's going to be an issue. It really kind of speaks to the success, the early success, and hopefully much continued success of both tax increment districts. The original boundary for the district is shown on page 7 of the project plan. And I do have, I'm going to pass out copies. I've got copies, some extra copies of.
Sure. If any of the public would like to
If you would like a
follow along.
copy to follow along with. That's a both of them. That's a share. Yeah. Problem. So the original boundary for TID 1 is shown on page 7. To the north, the boundary is at Custer Lane, coming down to towards the southern end of the village across Main Street to the north. The proposed boundary is shown on the following page in terms of the areas to be added and subtracted. So one of the primary purposes of the amendment is to add property north of Custer Lane, so on the very top end of the map, which is anticipated to be developed as senior living housing. The other area of potential development that was added to the tax increment district is shown on what's called, which would be numbered parcel number 16, which is the current storage, Circle S storage facility. That there's no current plans for the redevelopment, but that's a possible area of redevelopment within the lifespan of the current tax incremental finance district. There are also parcels down towards the southern area of the TID boundary that are proposed to be added. And then the subtraction of parcels along Becker Court that were initially included in the boundary of the tax increment district for the possibility of redevelopment. Those properties are being removed from the TID boundary because there is no known redevelopment possibilities within that, within those properties. And as said earlier, the concern is that if those properties remained in the district, that we would go over the 12% test with the properties that are being added to the TIDS boundary. The project costs and maps for project costs start on page 22. The location of the different project costs within the tax increment district. And then the project list is shown on page 25. So going back to the original creation of the district shows the phasing of the different project costs, as well as the costs that were added in the 2021 amendment in terms of primarily additional development incentives associated with the Berg development to the that would be kind of across Main Street, the areas just south of Custer Lane. The amendment itself is adding additional costs for development incentives associated with the senior living facility, water main extensions, as well as a third potential source of water within the village. There are lift station costs, and then some additional infrastructure improvements associated with streetscaping and some additional pedestrian paths from Main Street from Custer Lane to Overstone Drive, and then from Overstone over to Village Park. So the total costs that are being added are $3.8 million. In terms of the development assumptions, kind of pre and post amendment, those are shown on pages 27 and 28 of the project plan. Page 27 shows the development assumptions, so the actual. So right now, there is 14.3 million of actual tax increment within TIF district number 1, and then the additional increment associated with phases. The remaining portion of phase 1 of the Berg development, and then phase 2, that's the Overstone development, the townhouses that are just north, south, or to the south and northwest, sorry, thank you, of Custer Lane, as well as the Sewall development just south of Custer Lane within the tax increment district. So a total pre-amendment of a little over $112 million of new taxable value within the village. Post amendment, what is being planned for is, and at this point, just an additional $6 million related to the future senior housing development north of Custer Lane, which would bring that total to a little over $118 million. As said, there is no immediate plans for the development of the Circle S storage facility. So those any additional development on top of that would be in excess of what's shown on this page. In terms of what that would translate to in terms of new tax incremental revenue, pre-amendment shown on page 29, what is identified in the plan before the amendment is a little over $25 million in total future tax incremental revenue. After the amendment, we anticipate that would go to $26.56 million with that additional $6 million of new value. Within the world of tax incremental finance, there is always, again, a 2-year lag from the time that development takes place to the time that tax incremental value is realized. So if property would begin development in 2023, it would be valued as of January 1st, 2024. Tax bills go out in December of 2024, and tax revenue would come in 2025. Jumping to the cash flow analysis shown on pages 32 and 33, and really kind of just to kind of jump to page 33, this shows the cash flow after the amendment in terms of the taking on the additional project costs with that primarily being a municipal revenue obligation. With the additional development incentives, the village does not anticipate issuing general obligation debt for that, those project costs. But the infrastructure cost improvements, there would certainly be that debt issuance. There is the potential for total principal and interest payments at 4% of approximately 5.3 million over the remaining life of the tax increment district that is built into the cash flow analysis within this plan. And as shown in the analysis, the annual cash balance within the tax increment district, with the exception of a balloon payment that is identified in 2030 that may be paid off with available cash within the district, may also be refunded over the remaining life of the district as well. But right now, what's planned for is that there are available or would be available tax increments to keep the positive cumulative balance within the district. Given that this district is so new in its lifespan, a projected TID closure year was not identified in the project plan, but certainly what's shown or identified in here is that there would be a cumulative fund balance that would exceed liabilities within the district, certainly prior to the end of the tax increment district's lifespan. So with that, we can pause there if you'd like before going to TID 2.
Yeah, so do we have any questions or comments for Mr. Cameron regarding the TID 1 amendment?
I have just one. It may be super obvious, but it's just like you to speak to the but-for test with regard to the senior housing, and just why it wouldn't happen but for this proposal.
I think the primary reason is you've got water main extension work that has to take place to get up to that site. There also is the possibility for site improvements that are necessary within that development that would not occur without the use of tax incremental financing in terms of infrastructure, grading costs, internal site improvements, as well as costs for digging within that site itself.
Okay.
This is Jane Kittle. I have a question, 2 questions. So am I reading this correctly when I see that the cost related to the Second Amendment, 5,324,000, and the estimated additional increment is 6 million? So those numbers are fairly close to each other. Is there anything I'm missing, or is that the case?
Oh, Jane, you're not. So there's additional of 6 million. There is cost, really related to the senior housing development in terms of the development incentives and the water main extension work. There is additional cost that we are adding to the district in and above that. That is, certainly related to the property that's being amended, but also to the benefit of the current boundary within the TIF district.
And the other areas that are being added to the boundary, more toward the south of the district, there aren't currently plans for development or anything reportable at this point for those areas. They're just being added based on the fact that there could be some things coming down the pike, or there's some plans.
Correct. Do you want to speak to that? Or not?
Yeah, so you're correct. So the addition of the Hallquist properties, the 2 larger ones that surround the parcel that was already in, that was really more of a consolidation thing, and they are looking to actually CSM those, I believe, into a single lot, and TID boundaries can't cross over non-contiguous lots. They have to contain the whole lot. The other additions were, thought of in terms of possible redevelopment opportunities and some areas where we think there could potentially have that opportunity. There's very few of those here in Landon, being as small as we are. And being that this is kind of our last swing at this, if you will, we wanted to make sure that we captured those areas.
Right. I think it's fair to say that those properties are being added, in anticipation of future development, but really being added now because we are so close to the 12% test and fully expect to go over that here very shortly.
Okay, and so related to that, we're removing that one, I'll call it the center piece that's being removed from the district. Is there any increment being released with that, or is that basically not changed from its base value?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. If there is any increment associated with this, it would generally be only appreciation and value that would have occurred since the district was formed.
Okay,
Yeah, I think
All
it's not.
okay. All right, those were my only questions. Thank you.
Moving into tax increment district number 2. TIF district number 2 was created as a blighted district with a maximum 27-year lifespan in 2018. The district has not been amended to date. The purpose of this district, like TIF 1, is to add territory as well as subtract some territory to allow the amendment to proceed without violating the 12% test, as well as to add additional project costs. The properties that are being added and removed, so if you look at page 7, that shows you the existing boundary of the tax increment district, and then page 8 shows the properties, the existing boundary of the TID, as well as the properties to be added and removed. So the property that is being removed is referred to as the Barnes property or properties. That would be just south of State Street, just north of Good Hope Road, on the far eastern boundary of the tax increment district. And then the properties that are being added to the district are north of Good Hope Road, identified as possibilities for new housing within the village. And then properties along the very western edge of the tax increment district boundary, really on the western edge of the village, that border Town Line Road, and there's potential for redevelopment of those sites within the tax increment district's lifespan. So specifically right at there's a roundabout at Town Line Road and Good Hope Road. There's an electrical substation that is an abandoned electrical substation that's identified as parcel number 13 on that map. Those types of properties, again, looking to the foreseeable future. Certainly, there's the potential that those properties could develop or redevelop within the tax increment district's lifespan. The project list is shown on page 25 and then identified on the maps on pages 23 and 24. The additional project costs that are being added for this in terms of the larger project cost, that's really related to water main extension to serve that property, that area north of Good Hope Road that is identified for the potential for new housing within the village that is currently owned by HallQuest. And that's a request of the developer in terms of the potential for or what is needed to serve the district. So the primary cost that's being added in terms of large ticket cost is the water main extension that's needed to get into that development, as well as additional road work along Good Hope Road or the improvement of Good Hope Road, and then additional cost related to a third source of water that may be needed in the future within the village, as well as some potential for future incentives related to the HallQuest development, as well as other potential developments that are being added to, or potential areas that are being added to the district. There is not currently an ask that is in place. This is at this point a placeholder for the potential for future development incentives. In terms of the development assumptions pre and post amendment, those are shown on pages 27 and 28. Currently, there is 3.9, a little over 3.9 million of actual tax incremental value within the village. The potential pre-amendment for the build out of the district was 27.68 million. Post-amendment, what is being identified in the plan is an additional $10 million of new taxable value, and that's really contained within the Hallquest site, estimated to be 20 single-family homes valued at $500,000 per home, starting with buildings in 2027, running out through 2031 at this stage. In terms of the future value, incremental value within the district, pre-amendment, what was identified based on what's currently there plus planned is a total of 9.8 million of future tax incremental revenue. Post amendment, that number would jump to approximately 12.4 million of new tax incremental revenue over the 27-year lifespan of the district. What's identified right now from a financing plan standpoint is financing as soon as 2024 for the project costs that are identified in the amendment. Primarily, again, the water main extension to the Hallquest site. But I also identified are the other additional costs that are being added to the tax incremental project plan that would be financed with general obligation bonds. The cash flows pre and post amendment are shown on pages 32 and 33. Before the amendment, the current cash flow within the tax increment district in terms of the existing debt and municipal revenue obligations that are outstanding. What is identified in the cash flow analysis is that prior to the amendment, the TIF would be able to close as soon as 2036, which would be roughly 10 years before its maximum lifespan. Post amendment, with the additional project costs that are being added, along with the additional development. So adding that general obligation bond to the total financing, it would stretch the closure from 2036 to 2042. And again, that's on a project plan estimate basis right now. So I will turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman, and answer questions.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Cameron on TID 2?
Sure. So the assumed new development associated with adding adding the property to the district it's the 20 homes for $10 million.
Correct.
Primarily, it also. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead. Sorry.
I think the other piece that is viewed as an opportunity is the two parcels identified as 13 and 14 on that detail sheet. I think that was on page 9. So We Energies owned both of those. So that's a 4-acre parcel right on the corner of a pretty highly traveled area. So we saw that there might be some opportunities there as well.
Because they're former substation and removing them would be costly and getting the site cleaned up and everything.
That's already been done. They are already came in and took down the substation and did their remediation. There's also currently Sean Kelly of Kelly's Greenscapes is in the process of getting ready to initiate some self-storage and doing some CSM work on what would be parcel number 12. There would be primarily the entrance, and then it would stretch into the back of 15 and some other neighboring properties. So that's an imminent development that would probably be the first thing to happen in that area.
I don't have any additional questions on that related to that one.
Anyone else for TID 2 questions? Okay. I guess we're not taking action on anything tonight. We'll just
No.
be to set the next meeting date.
Right, so this is gonna be going before the Plan Commission tonight in a little under a half an hour for public hearing and resolution onto the village board. The village board is slated to take this on August 8th. So we've got a 5-day, publication period to kind of be mindful of, but we really would be looking at, potentially, the earliest would be maybe the 3rd week of August for a meeting, if not, kind of going into the week prior to Labor Day or just, after Labor Day in that first full week in September. So depending on what schedules work.
I know that I am actually going to be out of town the week of the 15th. But I could call in if need be.
Of August.
Yeah,
What about the week of say the
like
22nd?
the week of the 22nd, I can make myself available any day.
So the week of August 22nd. Is there any?
Looking at that week, I have afternoon availability on Monday, Wednesday, or Thursday. By afternoon, it would be something after 2 o'clock. Any of those 3 days.
I'm good at those days too.
So Monday or Wednesday works for me, but we also should have superintendent at that point. So I don't think I'm the only option for the school district at that point too. So we probably can make something work if it's not Monday or Wednesday.
If it's all the same, how about Monday, the 22nd then in the afternoon?
I was just gonna say my preference would be Wednesday over Monday, but that's fine.
I'm good with Wednesday as well, if there's preferences. Yeah, Wednesday, the 24th works for me as well. As far as a time, is this time a good time for folks, or would you prefer earlier?
I would prefer earlier in the day.
Me too.
It's just easier to connect earlier in the afternoon than the evening like this.
How about 3 o'clock?
Maybe.
Perfect.
That'd be great.
Okay, so we have a meeting set up then for August 24th. That's Wednesday at 3 p.m. And unless we have any other comments or questions or concerns at this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I
I move
would-
adjournment.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries and we're adjourned. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Um,